Remember when your favorite TV character suddenly announced she was expecting, and you thought, wait, didn't the actress just post baby bump photos last week? Well, turns out sometimes art really does imitate life. Or more accurately, sometimes writers scramble to hide a pregnancy bump behind conveniently placed laundry baskets, oversized purses, and strategic camera angles. Today we're counting down 13 TV characters who got written into pregnancy storylines because the actress was actually pregnant in real life, and the producers had to make a choice, write it in, or get really creative with those camera angles. Number 13, Markie Post, Night Court. Night Court ran from 1984 to 1992, giving us the wacky misadventures of Manhattan's night shift courtroom. Judge Harry Stone, played by Harry Anderson, presided over an endless parade of oddballs, perverts, and unfortunate souls who found themselves in legal trouble after dark. The show balanced slapstick comedy with surprising heart, and the cast, including John Larroquette as the sleazy but lovable Dan Fielding, created one of the 80s most underrated ensemble comedies. Markie Post joined the cast in season 3 as public defender Christine Sullivan. Christine was smart, optimistic, and served as the moral center of the show, often the voice of reason in a courtroom full of chaos. She also became Harry's main love interest, and their will, they won't. They dynamic kept fans invested for years. But in 1990, during the show's 7th season, Post became pregnant in real life. The producers faced a choice. Christine wasn't in a relationship on the show at that point. Writing her pregnancy in would require some creative maneuvering. Instead, the writers went with option B, hide it. For most of the season, Christine spent an unusual amount of time behind the bench, carrying stacks of legal files and wearing the baggiest blazers the wardrobe department could find. By the final episodes, she was basically conducting her legal arguments from behind courtroom furniture like a lawyer playing hide and seek. Post gave birth in December of 1990, and the show carried on without addressing it. Christine Sullivan remained childless, and the writers successfully pulled off one of TV's better pregnancy cover-ups. Night Court wrapped up in 1992, and Post went on to a successful career in TV movies and guest appearances. But for fans who watched season 7, there's always that nagging question. Why was Christine suddenly so attached to that podium? Number 12, Nancy McKeon, The Facts of Life. The Facts of Life, which ran from 1979 to 1988, started as a spin-off of Different Strokes and became a phenomenon in its own right. Set at the Eastland School, an all-girls boarding school in Peekskill, New York, the show followed house mother Edna Garrett, played by Charlotte Rae, and her charges as they navigated adolescence, friendship, and life lessons that somehow always wrapped up in 22 minutes. The core cast had eventually narrowed to 4 girls. Blair, the rich snob played by Lisa Whelchel, Tootie, the gossip played by Kim Fields, Natalie, the aspiring journalist played by Mindy Cohn, and Joe, the tough tomboy from the Bronx played by Nancy McKeon. Joe became a breakout character, the motorcycle riding, leather jacket wearing counterpoint to Blair's prep school princess. But in 1987, during the show's 8th season, McKeon became pregnant. The show was already in its later years, and the girls weren't really girls anymore. They were running their own business, Edna's Edibles, a gourmet food shop. The writers decided not to write McKeon's pregnancy into the show. Joe Polniacek getting pregnant would have been a massive character shift, and probably too serious for a show that was already struggling to figure out what to do with characters who had aged out of the boarding school setting. So the wardrobe department went into overdrive. Jo, who'd built her identity on fitted leather jackets and jeans, suddenly discovered a passion for oversized flannel shirts, baggy overalls, and strategic apron placement. For a character whose whole aesthetic was tough and fitted, the sudden shift to looking like she was borrowing clothes from a lumberjack 3 sizes bigger was noticeable. It was like watching someone play defense in their own sitcom. McKeon gave birth in March of 1988, just as the show was wrapping its final season. The Facts of Life ended in May of that year, sparing everyone from having to maintain the charade much longer. For fans of The Facts of Life, Season 8 will always be remembered as the year Joe suddenly got really into loose-fitting flannel and hiding behind the cash register. Number 11. Téa Leoni, The Naked Truth. The Naked Truth was one of those mid-90s sitcoms that never quite found its footing, but had a solid cast trying their best. The show premiered in 1995 on ABC before moving to NBC for its second and third seasons. Leoni starred as Nora Wilde, a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer whose life falls apart when she discovers her husband is having an affair. Suddenly broke and needing work, she ends up taking a job at a tabloid magazine, a major step down from her previous prestigious career. The show had an interesting premise, but it kept getting retooled. Supporting cast members came and went, the setting changed, and the network kept tinkering with the format, like a chef who couldn't decide if they were making soup or salad. In 1997, during the show's third season on NBC, Leoni became pregnant with her first child. The show was already on shaky ground, and adding a pregnancy storyline to a character whose entire arc was about rebuilding her life after a divorce seemed like a stretch. But the writers went for it anyway. Nora Wilde got pregnant because what else were they gonna do? He's Leoni behind tabloid newspapers for half a season. The pregnancy was written in, but it felt forced. The show had already cycled through so many changes that adding a baby storyline was just one more thing viewers had to adjust to. The ratings never recovered. The Naked Truth was canceled in 1998 after just 3 seasons. Leoni went on to have a hugely successful career, starring in movies like Deep Impact and The Family Man, and later headlining the political drama Madam Secretary. But The Naked Truth remains a footnote in 90s TV history, a show that kept reinventing itself until it ran out of ideas and episodes. Number 10. Alyson Hannigan, How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother ran from 2005 to 2014, telling the long, winding story of Ted Mosby's search for true love through a framework of flashbacks narrated to his kids. The show became a cultural phenomenon, making catchphrases like legendary and suit-up part of the zeitgeist. Alyson Hannigan played Lily Aldrin, a kindergarten teacher married to Jason Segel's Marshall Erickson. They were the show's anchor couple, the functional relationship that balanced out Barney's womanizing and Ted's romantic disasters. In 2009, during the show's 4th season, Hannigan became pregnant with her first child. The writers had a problem. Lily and Marshall had discussed having kids, but the timeline didn't quite line up for where the characters were in their arcs. So, the writers got creative. They came up with a hot dog eating contest storyline that was simultaneously brilliant and ridiculous. Lily allegedly consumed so many hot dogs during a 4th of July contest that she developed a food baby, which gave the writers a few episodes to joke about her bloating before they had to commit to anything. But they couldn't keep that up forever. By the middle of the season, they bit the bullet and wrote Lily's pregnancy into the show. Marshall and Lily found out they were expecting, and it became a major storyline for the rest of the season, and into season 5. The show handled it well, using the pregnancy for both comedy and genuine emotional moments. Then, in 2011, Hannigan got pregnant again during season 7. At this point, Lily and Marshall already had their son, Marvin, and another pregnancy would have thrown off the show's carefully constructed timeline. So, the writers went back to the bag of tricks: oversized purses, strategic furniture placement, and lots of scenes where Lily was conveniently seated became the norm. There's a noticeable stretch in season 7, where Lily is always carrying something large or standing behind the bar at McLaren's. How I Met Your Mother ended in 2014, and while the finale remains controversial, nobody can argue that the show didn't handle real-life pregnancies with more grace than most sitcoms. They wrote one in, hid the other, and somehow kept the show's timeline mostly intact. Number 9. Jane Seymour, Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman. Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman premiered in 1993, and became an unlikely hit for CBS, running for 6 seasons until 1998. Jane Seymour starred as Dr. Michaela Mike Quinn, a female physician from Boston who moves to Colorado Springs after her father's death and finds herself serving as the frontier town's only doctor. The show mixed medical drama with Western adventure, tackling issues like racism, women's rights, and social justice. Mike's relationship with mountain man Byron Sully, played by Joe Lando, was the show's emotional core. Their slow burn romance culminated in a wedding in season 3, and suddenly the writers had a married couple to work with, which in network television terms meant baby storylines were inevitable. In 1995, during the show's 4th season, Seymour became pregnant with twins in real life. She was 44 years old, and this was going to be impossible to hide. The writers made the logical choice and wrote Mike's pregnancy into the show. Dr. Quinn and Sully were going to have a baby, which fit the show's themes and gave them rich material to mine. But here's the thing. Seymour was pregnant with twins, but the show only wrote in one baby. That's because revealing twins would have complicated future storylines, and also because, well, this was network TV in the 90s. The pregnancy became a major storyline for the latter half of season 4, with Mike dealing with the physical challenges of being pregnant while still trying to serve as the town's doctor. Seymour gave birth to her twin sons in November of 1995, and the show continued for 3 more seasons with Katie as a recurring presence. The character of Dr. Quinn having a child added new dimensions to the show, giving the writers storylines about parenting on the frontier and balancing career with family. It worked because it fit naturally into the show's world. Number 8. Holly Robinson Peete, Hangin' with Mr. Cooper. Hangin' with Mr. Cooper ran on ABC from 1992 to 1997, part of the network's TGIF lineup that dominated Friday nights. Mark Curry starred as Mark Cooper, a former NBA player turned substitute teacher and basketball coach. Holly Robinson Peete played Vanessa Russell, Mark's best friend and roommate, and later his romantic interest. The show had that early 90s family sitcom energy, though it never quite reached the heights of its TGIF siblings like Family Matters or Step by Step. Then, in 1994, during the show's 3rd season, Peete became pregnant in real life. The writers faced a decision. Vanessa wasn't in a relationship at that point, and Mark and Vanessa's romantic tension was still mostly unresolved. Writing in a pregnancy would require significant story maneuvering. So, instead, they went the hiding route. Vanessa suddenly became very interested in wearing oversized blazers, carrying large handbags, and standing behind kitchen counters. There's a noticeable shift in season 3 where Vanessa's wardrobe becomes progressively baggier. The costume department started dressing her in clothes that looked like she borrowed them from someone 3 sizes larger. Scenes were shot with Peete seated more often, or with her character conveniently positioned behind furniture. It was the classic pregnancy hide, executed about as well as it could be, given the limitations of a multi-camera sitcom setup. Peete gave birth in February of 1995, and by the time season 4 rolled around, she was back and the show continued as if nothing had happened. Vanessa remained childless, and the show eventually ended in 1997, without ever addressing why Vanessa spent several months dressed like she was preparing for a blizzard indoors. Number 7. Cobie Smulders, How I Met Your Mother. Yes, we're back to How I Met Your Mother, because apparently that writer's room spent a significant portion of the show's run figuring out how to deal with pregnant actresses. Cobie Smulders played Robin Scherbatsky, the Canadian journalist and Ted's on, again off again, love interest, who eventually married Barney. Robin was explicitly established as a character who didn't want children, which made Smulders getting pregnant during the show a particularly tricky problem. In 2010, during the show's 6th season, Smulders became pregnant with her first child. The writers couldn't write it into the show without completely betraying Robin's character arc. One of Robin's defining traits was her career focus and her clear stance on not wanting to be a mother. So, the writers had to get creative. Enter one of the most absurd hiding strategies in sitcom history. The writers concocted a storyline where Robin temporarily gains weight after breaking up with Don. It was played for laughs, with Robin stress eating, but really it was just cover for Smulders' pregnancy. They had her wearing bulky clothes, shot her from specific angles, and kept her behind the bar at McLaren's for what felt like half the season. But here's where it gets interesting. The writers also used this period to explore Robin's feelings about not having children through a storyline, where she discovers she's unable to have kids. It was a surprisingly heavy plot for a comedy, but it allowed the show to address reproductive issues while simultaneously explaining why Robin wouldn't be showing up pregnant. Smulders gave birth in May of 2010, and when season 7 began, Robin was back to her normal self. The show continued for another 4 seasons, and Robin remained childless, staying true to the character even though the actress had become a mother. Then in 2014, during the show's final season, Smulders was pregnant again. By this point, the entire season took place over one weekend, Barney and Robin's wedding weekend, which meant the timeline was compressed and hiding the pregnancy was even more crucial. The writers relied heavily on strategic camera work, loose-fitting dresses, and a lot of shots where Smulders was seated or filmed from the chest up. Number 6. Heather Locklear, Melrose Place. Melrose Place was the soapy, sexy spin off of Beverly Hills 902. One of that took over Fox in the 90s. Premiering in 1992, the show followed young adults in a Los Angeles apartment complex, dealing with backstabbing, affairs, and enough plot twists to make your head spin. Heather Locklear joined season 2 as Amanda Woodward, the cold, manipulative advertising executive who became the show's breakout character and turned Melrose Place from sleepy drama into ratings gold. Amanda was all sharp edges and power suits, a woman who used sex and business savvy to get what she wanted. She was the anti-hero before anti-heroes were cool on television, and Locklear played her with such delicious villainy that she became the center of the show. But in 1997, during season 6, Locklear became pregnant in real life. This presented a massive problem. Amanda getting pregnant didn't fit her character at all. She was the career-obsessed power player who saw relationships as strategic moves, not someone excited about diapers. They decided to write it in, but they did it the most Amanda way possible. She got pregnant after a relationship with one of her many love interests, but the storyline was fraught with complications, drama, and typical Melrose Place chaos. It wasn't warm and fuzzy, it was vintage Amanda, using every situation to her advantage, even impending motherhood. The pregnancy showed vulnerability while maintaining her ruthless edge. Locklear gave birth in August 1997, and the show continued into its final season. Looking back, it worked because the writers never let Amanda become anything other than Amanda, even with a baby. Number 5. Jenna Fischer, The Office. The Office ran from 2005 to 2013, giving us 9 seasons of the Dunder Mifflin Scranton branch and some of the most cringeworthy, heartfelt comedy in television history. Jenna Fischer played Pam Beasley, the receptionist whose slow-burn romance with Jim Halpert became the emotional core of the series. In 2009, during the show's 6th season, Fischer became pregnant in real life. Fortunately for the writers, Pam and Jim were already married at this point. Writing in a pregnancy made perfect narrative sense. They were the show's central couple, and adding a baby was a natural next step for their characters. So, the writers went for it. Pam got pregnant, and it became a major storyline for season 6. The show mined it for both comedy and drama. Jim and Pam dealing with pregnancy scares, preparing for parenthood, and eventually welcoming their daughter Cecilia gave The Office some of its sweetest moments. What made it even better was that the show didn't shy away from the realities of pregnancy. Pam dealt with swollen feet, mood swings, and the general discomfort of being pregnant while working at a paper company with Michael Scott as your boss. There were classic episodes built around her pregnancy, including the iconic 2-parter Niagara. Fischer gave birth in September of 2010, and the show wrote Pam's delivery into the season 7 premiere. The episode where Pam goes into labor became one of The Office's most memorable, featuring the entire office rallying around her and Jim while still finding room for comedy. Then, in 2013, during The Office's final season, Fischer got pregnant again. This time, the writers were in a bind. The show was ending, the timeline was specific, and adding another baby would complicate the final story arcs. So, they made the choice to hide it. Fischer spent much of season 9 behind reception desks, wearing baggy sweaters and holding strategically placed objects. Number 4. Demi Moore, General Hospital. Before Demi Moore became a Hollywood A-lister, starring in Ghost and Indecent Proposal, she was a soap opera actress on General Hospital. Moore joined the cast in 1982 as investigative reporter Jackie Templeton, a character who quickly became entangled in the show's signature mix of romance, intrigue, and occasional mob violence. But in 1983, Moore became pregnant in real life at just 20 years old. She was married to musician Freddie Moore at the time, and the pregnancy presented General Hospital's writers with a decision. They chose to write it in. Jackie Templeton got pregnant, which gave the show new material to work with. Soap operas live for this stuff. Drama, emotion, and life-changing events that can ripple through storylines for months. Moore gave birth to her daughter in 1983, but by 1984, she'd left General Hospital to pursue film work. Her time on the soap was brief, just 2 years, but it was a launching pad for her movie career. She went on to become one of the biggest stars of the late 80s and 90s. Looking back, Jackie Templeton's pregnancy is a footnote in both General Hospital history and Demi Moore's career. But it's worth noting that General Hospital made the choice to embrace Moore's real-life pregnancy, rather than hide it or write her off the show. For a young actress just starting out, that support likely mattered. In the world of soap operas, pregnancies are currency, and General Hospital knew how to spend it. Number 3. Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Seinfeld. Seinfeld ran from 1989 to 1998 and became the defining sitcom of the 90s. A show about nothing that was actually about everything. Observational humor elevated to an art form. Julia Louis-Dreyfus played Elaine, the show's female lead, holding her own in a male-dominated cast with sharp wit and physical comedy that made her every bit as funny as the guys. Elaine was independent, confident, and refreshingly not defined by her relationships with men, even though her dating disasters provided endless material for the show. But in 1995, during season 7, Louis-Dreyfus became pregnant with her second child. This presented a unique problem for Seinfeld. The show thrived on its characters being selfish, petty, and largely unchanging. Elaine getting pregnant would have fundamentally altered her character and the show's dynamic in ways that didn't fit Seinfeld's philosophy. So, the writers got creative. They decided to hide the pregnancy, but they did it in the most Seinfeld way possible. They had Elaine wearing oversized jackets, carrying large purses, and in one memorable stretch, they put her in a puffy vest that she wore for multiple episodes. The vest became a running gag, with other characters commenting on it, which was Seinfeld's way of lampshading the obvious cover-up. Louis-Dreyfus gave birth in June of 1996, and when season 8 began, Elaine was back to her regular wardrobe, and the vest was mercifully retired. For Seinfeld fans, season 7 will always be remembered as the year of the puffy vest, a creative solution to a biological reality. Number 2, Lisa Kudrow, Friends. Friends ran for 10 seasons from 1994 to 2004 and became one of the most successful sitcoms in television history. The show followed 6 friends in New York City navigating their 20s and 30s. Lisa Kudrow played Phoebe Buffy, the eccentric masseuse and musician whose offbeat worldview made her one of the show's most memorable characters. Phoebe was wonderfully weird, singing songs about smelly cats, believing in past lives, and offering life advice that was equal parts profound and nonsensical. Kudrow played her with a sweetness that made even Phoebe's strangest moments feel genuine. But in 1997, during the show's 4th season, Kudrow became pregnant in real life. The writers faced a challenge. Phoebe wasn't in a serious relationship at that point. Writing in a pregnancy would require major story maneuvering and potentially tie Phoebe down in ways that didn't fit her free-spirited character. So, the writers came up with one of the most creative solutions in sitcom history. They had Phoebe become a surrogate for her half-brother Frank and his wife Alice. Phoebe agreed to carry their baby, which explained the pregnancy without requiring Phoebe to be in a relationship or fundamentally change her character arc. It was brilliant because it was exactly the kind of selfless, slightly crazy thing Phoebe would do. The storyline dominated much of season 4 and into season 5. Phoebe dealt with the realities of being pregnant, all played for comedy but grounded in character. And then the show went even further. They made it triplets. Kudrow was carrying one baby in real life, but Phoebe was carrying 3, which gave the writers even more material to work with. The episodes dealing with Phoebe's surrogacy are some of Friends' most touching. The show balanced comedy with genuine emotion, and when Phoebe finally gave birth to the triplets in the season 5 premiere, it was both funny and heartfelt. Kudrow gave birth to her son in May of 1998, and the show moved on with Phoebe returning to her regular life. The triplets became recurring mentions, but weren't a constant presence, which allowed Phoebe to return to being Phoebe without the burden of raising children. What Friends did with Lisa Kudrow's pregnancy remains one of the best examples of writers turning a potential problem into a creative opportunity. They didn't hide it, they didn't write her out, and they didn't fundamentally change her character. Instead, they found a storyline that fit Phoebe perfectly. That's good writing. Number 1. Lucille Ball, I Love Lucy. And here we are at number 1, the pregnancy that changed television forever. I Love Lucy premiered in October of 1951 and became an instant phenomenon. Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz played fictionalized versions of themselves. Lucy and Ricky Ricardo, a married couple living in New York City. The show was groundbreaking for multiple reasons, including being one of the first to be filmed in front of a live studio audience. But in 1952, during the show's second season, Ball became pregnant in real life with her second child. This presented CBS with a dilemma unlike anything television had faced before. Pregnancy on TV in 1952 was not done. It was considered too adult, too private, too real for the sanitized world of 50s television. The word pregnant couldn't even be said on air. They had to use expecting instead. But Ball and Arnaz pushed for it. They wanted to write the pregnancy into the show, making Lucy Ricardo pregnant along with Lucille Ball. It was a radical idea for the time, and it required convincing nervous executives and skittish sponsors that America could handle seeing a married woman expecting a baby on television. CBS eventually agreed, but with conditions. They consulted with religious leaders, including a priest, a minister, and a rabbi, to make sure the storyline wouldn't be considered offensive. Think about that for a second. They needed religious approval to show a married couple having a baby on television. The pregnancy became a major storyline for the second season. Lucy and Ricky found out they were expecting, and the show documented Lucy's pregnancy with humor and heart. The episodes were groundbreaking, showing a pregnant woman on television for the first time in a major network sitcom. The episode where Lucy tells Ricky she's pregnant, titled Lucy is enceinte, using the French word because pregnant was still too risque, is one of the most famous in television history. The scene where Lucy arranges for a song request at Ricky's club to tell him the news is genuinely touching and still holds up today. But here's where it gets even more remarkable. Ball was scheduled to give birth in January of 1953, and CBS decided to air the episode where Lucy gives birth on the same day. They filmed the birth episode in November of 1952 and held it until Ball's scheduled C-section. On January 19, 1953, Lucille Ball gave birth to Desi Arnaz Jr. in real life. And that same night, 44 million people tuned in to watch Lucy Ricardo give birth to little Ricky on television. 44 million people. To put that in perspective, that was more viewers than watched Dwight Eisenhower's presidential inauguration the next day. The Lucy birth episode became the most watched television event up to that point in history. It wasn't just a sitcom episode. It was a cultural moment that proved television could reflect real life in ways no one had imagined before. The pregnancy storyline made I Love Lucy even more popular than it already was, and the show continued to dominate ratings for the rest of its run. Ball and Arnaz created the template for every pregnancy storyline that came after. They showed that you could address real life on television without losing the comedy or the heart that made a show work. I Love Lucy ended its run in 1957, but its impact on television cannot be overstated. Lucy Ricardo's pregnancy remains one of the most significant moments in TV history. It broke barriers, changed what was acceptable to show on television, and proved that audiences were ready for stories that reflected their actual lives. Lucille Ball went on to become one of the most powerful women in Hollywood, eventually buying out RKO Studios and producing countless shows through Desilu Productions. But her decision to make Lucy Ricardo pregnant when she was pregnant in real life changed television forever, opening the door for every actress on this list and countless others who came after.